Well, welcome everybody to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. I'm your host, Bishop E.W. Jackson. Look, I normally come on and spend a lot of time talking about a particular topic and then try to get into a few other things toward the end of the program. I'm going to do things a little bit different today. I'm going to try to cover a number of different topics because there really is so much to cover. I want to say I will be heading for California today. I will wake up in liberal La La Land tomorrow morning. I'm flying out today. I was thinking about it. I think this is the first time I've been to California since 2020 or 2019. Because if I'm not mistaken, the last time I was in California, we were just beginning to talk about COVID. So that might have been 2019, actually, toward the end of 2019. And we're just beginning to talk about it. And it was already hitting California. And so I think it's been, that'd be at least 5 or maybe well over 5 years since I've been to California. And you know what, folks? I haven't missed it. Beautiful state, beautiful weather, but just as crazy as they can be out there. I mean, just crazy. Well, look, I'm not talking much about California, but pray for me because I'm heading out. I won't be back for a few days. I've got some business to do out there. I want to remind you the Stand Awards dinner is taking place on Tuesday, Tuesday, May the 12th at Tyson's Corner, Virginia. And that's right outside of D.C. I hope you'll make plans to come. It's going to be a great event. We're going to be honoring Bishop Patrick L. Wooten. If you've never heard of him, look him up. He's got some great videos. He is a media influencer, even though that's not what he's trying to be. He's just a preacher, but he puts it out there. I say he's a lot like me, let's put it that way. And I don't mean in any way to diminish him, but I love it when I see people. I say, yes, that's exactly what I would say. That's exactly the way I would approach it. He's a Bible preaching, Bible teaching minister of the Word of God, Bishop Patrick L. Wooten. But of course, probably most of you listening to me right now, you've never heard of him. We're going to be honoring him at our dinner. We're going to be honoring Richard Viguerie. Again, I don't know how many of you have heard of Richard Viguerie, but I said Richard Viguerie is among some of the really the icons of the conservative movement. Jerry Falwell, James Dobson, Pat Robertson, and folks like that. Richard Viguerie is one of those people. Paul Weyrich, who's passed away some time ago. Now, in fact, everybody I've just named has passed away, and Richard Viguerie is in his 90s. So we're really looking forward to recognizing him. We're going to be honoring Charlie Kirk posthumously. Not sure who will be there to accept the award. We haven't resolved that yet, but it's going to be a great event, folks. And then there's one other honoree that we haven't yet announced because, frankly, we can't announce it yet because it hasn't been confirmed. But it's a major media figure that really has been a tremendous voice for truth. And so I'll leave it at that. But it's going to be a great event. Tuesday, March 12th. 7 p.m. for the dinner. We have a sponsors and honorees reception at 6 for those people who sponsor and for our honorees. But the dinner itself is going to start at 7. Tyson's Corner is right outside of Virginia. You can fly into Reagan or fly into Dulles. And we have rooms reserved, set aside for our dinner at the Tyson's Corner Marriott. So I hope that all of you will support. And if you want to support, go to standamerica.us. You can make a contribution toward the dinner now. Tickets are not yet. I don't think we have tickets on the website available yet, but they will be in the next day or two at this point. If they're not up today, probably tomorrow, Monday, I would imagine at the latest, you'll be able to buy tickets on the website. Okay. First, let me, in terms of issues, again, that's standamerica.us. First, let me just say on the issues, have you all seen what Mamdani has planned for New York? I mean, he's talking about raising property taxes 10% if he doesn't get his desired tax on the wealthy, whatever that means. But look at where he plans to spend money. he wants to spend $5.6 million for the Office of Racial Equity. And get this, then he wants to spend another $4.6 million for a commission on racial equity. So that's over $10 million. An Office of Racial Equity, and that's not enough because you can't deal with racial equity with just an Office of Racial Equity. You've got to have a commission on racial equity as well. And then he's going to spend nearly $1 million on gender equity. And then he wants to pay for the Department of Education to have a chief diversity officer for $260,000 a year. He's going to pay for 3 chief diversity inclusion officers for the Fire Department of New York. 3 diversity inclusion officers for $100,000 apiece. And then he wants to pay for an additional, like, again, that's not enough. He wants to pay for an additional chief diversity inclusion officer. Oh, these were civilian chief diversity inclusion officers. Right. So 3, folks, I'm not making it up. 3 civilian chief diversity inclusion officers for the Fire Department of New York. And then 1 chief diversity inclusion officer for the Fire Department of New York, which I guess is not a civilian. Folks, you just get this. $2 million for LGBTQ plus emergency. I think the people caught up on all this sexual deviancy and sickness and illness, it's just stuff is demonic. The whole thing is an emergency, but he needs $2 million. I guarantee you it's not to help them come out of it. I guarantee it's to help you and me. It's probably to beat us around the head and shoulders to get us to bow to this depravity. And on it goes. So he wants to raise taxes. This is why. Because he wants all this weird stuff being done in New York. Now, folks, I know what some of you are probably thinking. Yeah, but EW, that's New York. Folks, let me tell you something. This is what they want for America. This is what they want. Look, I just reviewed a poll today. 66% of Democrats have a more favorable view of socialism than capitalism. 66%. Look, for all practical purposes, the Democrat Party is the Socialist Party of America now. You don't need a Socialist Party of America as a separate entity. You have one. The Democrats are socialists. So I know why we say, well, thank God that's New York. Folks, let there be no mistake. This is what they want for you and your community, your state, your city, and Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Zohran Mamdani are really, for all practical purposes, the leaders of the new Democrat Party. And we here in Virginia, so look, but that's what's happening in New York. And what I want you to understand is that's what they want for America. That's the whole ball. Look, these people are power mad. And the whole ball of wax is about getting their grubby little hands around the throats of the American people and throttling us and strangling us into submission to their socialist vision. That's what this is all about. That's why they never complain about criminals. That's why they never complain about illegal aliens, no matter how vicious, how vile, how violent they are. Because those are the tools that they're using to get their hands around your throat and just throttle you into, you better submit to the socialist vision that we have. This depraved, godless vision that we have for America. They're going to beat us into it if they can. And that's why we've got to fight them. And when I say beat us into it, you know what I mean. Of course, I think they are happy when violence happens. I just, again, reviewing today all the things that were said when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I mean, all the people who just came out and said, good, good, I'm glad he's dead, glad he's done. I mean, he deserved it. I mean, not one or two, but lots of people made those kinds of comments. And then later either lost their jobs, had to walk them back. But that was just the tip of the iceberg, because that's the way most, sadly, certainly the elitists in the Democrat Party, that's the way they think. They are happy to inflict pain and suffering and destruction on people with whom they disagree. They are happy to do it. They enjoy it. So now we come to my home state of Virginia. Folks, I tell you, I could weep. I won't. In fact, you all probably heard Barack Obama did it when President Trump was elected. He and Susan Rice, I don't know where Michelle was at the time, but he and Susan Rice apparently were together when they realized Trump had won, and they sobbed. Now, you know what? That to me is a picture of who Barack Obama is. The soft, sobbing, effete former president. Brother. I mean, I didn't weep when he got elected. I didn't like it, but I certainly didn't weep. I said I could weep. I could weep over what's happening in Virginia, but I don't. I'm too busy trying to figure out what we need to do in order to rescue Virginia before we pass the point of no return. But here's what I want to come to today. In Virginia, you know, of course, Virginia is planning to, Virginia Democrats are planning to create a situation in which they draw districts that will allow for 1 Republican district and 10 Democrat districts. When I moved to Virginia, it was 8 and 4, 8 Republican districts, 4 Democrat districts. Now it's 6 and 5, 6 Democrat districts, 5 Republican districts. I think I'd given a number less than that, but I'd forgotten about the 9th district, which is Southwest Virginia, which is still Republican, the 6th district, which is still Republican, the 5th district is Republican, and the 2nd district is Republican, and the 1st district is Republican. So we still do have 5. They're trying to redistrict so that Republicans have only 1 district, and Democrats have 10. We have 11 congressional districts in Virginia. Now, when asked about this massive power grab, what they say is, well, we're responding to what they're doing in Texas, and they're going to do that in Texas. Well, then this would be my question. Are you serving Texas, or are you serving Virginians? Because if you're serving Virginians, it should not matter what Texas is doing. What matters is what's right for Virginia. But what that tells you is they don't see themselves as serving Virginia. They see themselves as serving a national effort to take over the country. They don't care what people in Virginia think. What they care about is this movement, this effort. Illegal alien invasion is part of that. Continually touting racism is part of that in order to keep black folks on their little slave plantation that they've created so that they can get 90 to 95% of the black vote. and do if they can, doing the same thing with Hispanics, doing the same thing with Muslims, doing the same thing with refugees, doing the same thing with women. Any group they can corral, any group they can convince, we are your rescuers, we are your benefactors, we are your masters, we will take care of you, but you have to do our bidding. We need you to protest when we want you to protest, riot when we want you to riot, and vote when we want you to vote. The way we want you to vote. So those are the three things that they ask of their slaves. So Virginia's trying to do a redistricting that is just a wholesale, I mean, they're trying to create a wholesale revolution. So here's, I told you, they've come up with 50 new taxes. We have a $2.6 billion surplus in Virginia, but that's not enough. They want to raise about $6 billion in additional taxes. And they've come up with 50 new taxes. And I mean, that tells you all you need to know. And of course, they want to ban what they call assault weapons. They want to ban magazines of more than 10 rounds. And if you're caught with those things once they're banned, then you are subject to conviction and up to a year in prison and fines and suspension of your Second Amendment rights. Well, they're already trying to suspend Second Amendment rights. I mean, they don't have any, these people don't have any respect for the Second Amendment. They don't like it. They think it's an anachronism. They want to get rid of it. They can't. So they do what they always do. They don't care what the law says. They don't care what the Constitution says. They care about what they want. And they'll find a way around it to make the Constitution a dead letter. Because, here again, they can't overturn the Constitution, but they can try to make it a dead letter by just chipping away at it, chipping away at it, chipping away at it. So I've said the whole concept of hate crimes, to me, is really an assault on the First Amendment, because we shouldn't be locking people up for what they think. We should be locking people up for what they do. Because whether you kill somebody because you're a racist or you kill them because you're robbing them, they're still just as dead. And what you did to them is what they should be, but people should be punished for, not the ideation, not the thoughts of your mind while you did it. I mean, we do take that into consideration in terms of premeditation, crime of passion, that kind of thing, but not, oh, you did that because you're a racist and you did this because you're a robber. Well, you're just as dangerous because you took a human life. But oh, no. We want to get into people's heads, you see. This is a leftist idea. We want to get into people's heads. We want to punish people because we don't think they're thinking the right way. And folks, we never had hate crimes. It wasn't introduced over black people. It was introduced over homosexuals. That's really what gave us that. Because what the homosexual community wants is, the homosexual activists, what they want is, they want protection from their ability to try to seduce people who are not interested in their sexual deviancy and who might respond violently. And they want to be able to punish those people, intimidate those people by letting those people know you're going to be punished for a hate crime if you respond violently to their overtures. Now I will tell you all a story. I don't know whether I've told you all this before. This is the truth, though, of course. This happened to me. And I think this is what this boils down to. I went to buy a piece of jewelry for my wife. I forget what the occasion was for. I don't know whether it was our anniversary or whatever it was for. But I went to buy a piece of jewelry for my wife, and I saw something, and I thought, man, that really looks nice. I want to see that. So I told the person behind the counter, I said, let me see that. Really nice looking piece too. So the guy gets it and comes around the counter. But as he's coming toward me, it's really quite obvious that he's full of sugar. In other words, he's really, he's a homosexual, very effeminate. And when I reached out my hand to, he opened it up and he reached out his hand to give it to me. When he did it with both hands, and he slid his hand over my hand and pulled his hand back very gently. Yeah. I looked at him, folks, and I'll be very honest. I wanted to punch him so bad because I knew it was inappropriate. He was touching me inappropriately. But you know what? If I had knocked him on his butt, I'd have been charged with a hate crime. He attacked him because he's a homosexual. He attacked him. He's anti-gay. and given the fact that it's me, oh my goodness gracious, they'd put me in jail. I have no doubt about it. If the left had anything to say about it, they'd want to put me in jail. And see, I think that's what hate crime is all about. It's all about protecting people who want to do that kind of mess and want to try to get away with it. And if you respond like a normal man would want to respond, I wanted to hit him. But I just looked at him and just seethed. Because I knew even if I started talking, I'd just let myself get worked up. And then, you know, what did I do? Oh, no, sir, you are bad. I can see it now. You are badly mistaken. You don't, no. We need to call security. You know, I'd have been made to look like the bad guy. You know, hate crimes is nothing but, it is nothing but a ploy of this whole SPCG movement, the sexual perversion child grooming movement. Because I don't call them LGBTQ. It's a sexual perversion child grooming movement. It's all about that. At any rate, in Virginia, why did I tell you that story? But yeah. So in Virginia, they're really going to be pushing that whole issue as well. They want to enshrine homosexual marriage into the Constitution of Virginia. And in addition to that, they want to enshrine abortion up to the moment of birth into the Constitution of Virginia, that there's absolutely you have a constitutional right to kill an unborn baby up to the moment that baby emerges from the mother's uterus. So these people basically want to make us a bunch of murderers. That's really what they want to do. They want to enshrine preborn murder into the Constitution. And that's exactly what they are, a bunch of murderers. What else would you call it? Well, my looked at the sonograms of both my grandchildren, and I could see the family resemblance. I am not kidding, folks. I mean, I could see it in the sonogram. Those are my grandchildren. My blood is running through them. And these people will tell you, oh, no, just kill it. That's no big deal. They are their father, the devil, and the deeds of their father they will do. And he was a murderer from the beginning. He's just a liar from the beginning. And if the lie is, that's not a baby. Unless you want it, then it is. Well, then if you want it, well, then you can call it whatever you want. But no, it's not a baby. It's just a thing. It's a blob. And you kill it and get rid of it. Just throw it in the trash. Now, what is that? It's wicked. It's evil. So they want to do this. So in addition to this, in addition to all this stuff that they want to do in Virginia, they want to create a retail market for marijuana. Now, so let me add a couple of facts that you may not. Now, here again, I know this is Virginia, but folks, this is what they want for America. At the same time, we are now hearing, really for the first time, and by the way, particularly here in Virginia, there's a syndrome called cannabis hyperemesis. Cannabis hyperemesis. And it's landed people in the emergency rooms all over the country, but particularly acute here in Virginia. It says the number of people landing in the emergency rooms in Virginia has increased 29% over the last 5 years. They said there were 24,960 visits in 2024. Wait a minute, let me get this straight. Over that 5-year period, 24,960 visits. The annual visits rose from 4,027 in 2020, annual visits, to 5,200 in 2024. I mean, that is a significant increase in the number of people landing in emergency rooms because of marijuana use. It says there were 172,000 adult emergency department visits for cannabis use. I think this is in the country from 2020 to 2024. And that's now increased from 31,000 visits a year to 38,000 visits a year. Now, with all of this happening, and by the way, we're now understanding that all of the toxicity of cigarette smoking is included with marijuana smoking and with cannabis. In addition to that, we know that it's laced with all kinds of other things. People are putting all kinds of other things in it. So you got that. So here the Virginia legislature is. Let's kill more unborn babies. Let's enshrine homosexuality in our Constitution, and let's legalize for retail sale recreational marijuana. With these new medical facts emerging of what is happening. This is happening particularly to our young people in using this stuff. But see, this is what I mean. They don't care what happens to people. That's not the game. The name of the game is power. And once again, here's a new constituency they may buy. You know what that is? The drug addicted. Listen, we'll make sure you get your drugs. Just vote for us. A new slave class now. I had somebody say to me 40 years ago when I was in law school, and we were having this intellectual discussion on whether America could ever descend into a dictatorship or into a totalitarian state. A theoretical discussion. One person said this, and I will never forget it. One person said, well, you know what? If drugs continue to grow in use in our country and you get enough people high and the government takes over to make sure that those people can get those drugs, they can get those people to go along with anything they want. And boy, I will never forget that, because it struck me then. It still strikes me, because that's exactly what this is all about. Get them high, supply their drugs, and you can get them to do just about anything. See, folks, that's the totalitarian mindset. It doesn't matter how you do it. Just get the power and control that you crave. And then you can do whatever you want to do. That's what these people mean by the code word democracy. Our democracy, what they mean is we want absolute control. And if we can just get a majority to go along with us, we can upend the Constitution. We can kill unborn babies. We can keep people high. We can enslave the whole population. Just like I said, China's a slave state. We can turn America into a slave state for all practical purposes. Won't sound that way. We'll keep talking about democracy. And we'll keep talking like that. But we'll know that in the end, we have absolute and total control over everything and everybody. So that's not the end of the story for Virginia. So in addition to that, while they're moving this thing along, the top Democrat in Virginia is a woman named Louise Lucas. Now, I thought she owned 2 cannabis stores. I have not been able to verify that, but I can absolutely unequivocally tell you that she owns at least one of them. And I can also tell you that an investigation of her store found that they were selling products that contain quantities of Delta-9 THC, which is the substance that sort of gives the high in marijuana. But by the way, this particular version of it was illegal to sell in Virginia. And when they did an audit of her store, they found that 65 of the 66 products that she sold were mislabeled. No truth in labeling that this stuff was in it, and she was basically selling that stuff illegally. Now, if you don't know who Louise Lucas is, you remember the situation of the Confederate monument being torn down and it fell on somebody. Well, she's the state senator who was out there encouraging these protesters to tear down this monument that fell on a man. And of course, because she is so powerful, nothing happened to her. She was just completely let off the hook. She's out there inciting this kind of violent behavior. I mean, this thing weighed, who knows how much it weighed, a ton. And you're trying to get people to turn that thing over. I mean, it's a miracle that somebody wasn't killed. But of course, she couldn't care less. I'll tell you, I don't know Louise Lucas, and I pray for her. I don't hate her, but I certainly hate everything she stands for, everything she represents. And by the way, these people all campaign in the black churches. Hallelujah, glory. I am here to tell you that, and just as full of the devil as they can be. And it's sad, these gullible preachers. Well, of course, maybe I shouldn't say gullible. Maybe I should say these false prophets, because that's what many of them are. Because Jesus is not this true Savior, their true God. Their true Savior is the Democrat Party. Their true God is the Democrat Party. And their true Bible is liberalism and racialism. That's really what they live by. So that it doesn't matter. Like one prominent preacher who I thought was a really good, biblically oriented person said of Stacey Abrams, she came into his church and said, now there's a person who ought to be the next governor. Now they're just as godless as she can be. I'm thinking, what? She's godless. She's racist. She's just another wicked witch. And you had these white liberals just pouring millions of dollars into her to make sure that trying to take over Georgia. And basically, you know what? She almost got it done. Hasn't quite gotten it done, but she almost got it done. By stirring the racial pot. They're out to get us. We got to turn out en masse for our slave masters, the Democrat Party. And folks, I never whine. I just do my job. So forgive me if this comes across a little bit like whining. I try to tell our allies, I try to tell our fellow Republicans, if you don't invest some money in separating out the Bible-believing people, the traditional people, the people who have conservative values, in reaching them so that they have a moment to pause and say, well, wait a minute, I can't vote for this person because that person's completely against my biblical commitment. If you don't do that and you continue to lose these urban areas to the tune of 90 to 95% of black voters going for Democrats, we're going to lose the country. Yeah, I said it. We're going to lose the country. We're going to lose the country because that's unsustainable. It's unsustainable. And essentially, I mean, that's what we've got here in Virginia. We had 93% of black voters voted for Abigail Spanberger. And most of those people, of course, are church-going people, voted for Abigail Spanberger, who is about as close to the devil as you can get. I mean, Abigail Spanberger is a demonic person. She lied, ran as a moderate, and comes in, and like I said, I just gave you the agenda that she's promoting. Let's kill unborn babies. Let's promote sexual deviancy. Let's promote homosexual marriage. I mean, and let's take over. Let's absolutely get the stranglehold on Virginia so that the Republicans have no chance whatsoever. And now then we can do whatever we want to do. 50 taxes. You think that's the end of it? So when you look at places like New York and you look at places like Virginia, don't think, well, thank God that's not us. Folks, coming to a city near you. That's why we need, of course, I don't know what they're doing in New York. Lord, oh God, help us. But that's why here in Virginia, I'm holding a summit on March 21st to talk about what we need to do to stop these people. And again, I mean stop them politically, stop them culturally. I don't mean with violence, okay? Because I always have to make that disclaimer, because I know there are people who monitor everything I say, and they're liars, and they will come, they'll take something I say out of context, and, like I said, they always, when they talk about my views on homosexuality, they'll find something I've said about homosexuality being depraved and sick and basically societal suicide. It destroys societies and all that. But they never tell people that I say, but I pray for homosexuals. I don't hate them. I love them. I pray for them. I want them to come to know the true and the living God. I want them to repent of their sins so that they can go to heaven too. I don't hate them. I don't want to kill them. I don't want to harm them. I don't want to attack them. And I've said I would defend, if I saw somebody attacking a person because that, for whatever reason, an innocent person was being attacked, but if they were attacking them because they were homosexual, attacking them because they were a drag queen, or attacking them because they were transgender, I would defend the person. Because that's not the answer. Just because that person is living a depraved life, just because that person is morally and sexually and spiritually confused, doesn't mean somebody has a right to go beat him up or go kill him. But they never print that, and they never talk about that. They only talk about my biblical expressions with regard to homosexuality. So. But all these Christians in Virginia went out and voted against God. That's right. That's exactly the way it is. They voted against God. Because everything the Democrat Party is for, God is against, and everything God is against, therefore. So, and they're going to continue to play the race card. Look, they have to, folks. They have to. That's why they will never, you point out, well, here's these illegal aliens. They're robbing. They're raping little children. They're trafficking in drugs. They won't even acknowledge it. See, because they can't break. What do they call that in acting? They can't break character. Okay? And they've got to stay in character. And the role they're playing is, we are saviors to this poor, downtrodden group of people. When you start talking about some of them being violent, dangerous people, man, that messes up your whole narrative. You'll Is that the expression, break character? But yeah, you forget your whole role. You start talking about that, so you can't do that. You got to keep talking about them as victims so that you can play the rescuer. And Wes Moore has got the unmitigated gall to say that white America needs to wrestle with Trump's actions toward black people. What? What actions? Because he doesn't agree with you, he's racist? I don't agree with Wes Moore either. I mean, again, these liberals, They act like they're somehow doing something original when all they are is puppets for their leftist puppet masters. And they act like they're saying something and doing something original. He's talking about President Trump has spent the last year attacking HBCUs. That is not true. It is categorically not true. President Trump has increased funding to HBCUs. Here's what they don't like. They don't like the fact that President Trump, in terms of how scholarship money is awarded, will not allow scholarship money to be awarded on the basis of race. That's what they call an attack on HBCUs. What they don't tell you is that while that may have eliminated some of the scholarship money that people would normally go after, and it should be eliminated, because scholarship money ought to be given on the basis of merit and or need, not race. I mean, that's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. And if you do it on the basis of merit and need, guess what? You are certainly going to include some black folks, some Hispanic folks, because they're going to have some needs. But to the extent that their holders and their managers are telling them, well, you can't do as well as a white person on that test. That's not fair to ask you to score the same level. Don't worry about that. We're going to pass you through anyway. Who said you have to know how to read in order to do this job? Black people can't learn to read the same way white people can. We all know that. And we understand. Black people can't do math. Black people can't be engineers. But that's okay. We got a DEI job for you. It's going to pay you a lot of money. All you got to do is corral the natives and make sure that they know that we are the ones who rewarded you. And when the time comes, riot for us, protest for us, and vote for us. We got a deal? All right. Head back on out into the field and continue to pick that cotton. And they act like they're doing something, something so heroic. President Trump increased funding to HBCUs, federal funding to HBCUs to support these institutions. Some of the money that they lost as a result of that scholarship, he still increased their funding by $85 million. But they won't tell you that. Because that, here again, that interferes with the narrative. President Trump has spent the last year attacking HBCUs. Because, and I am here as the black champion to make sure that this ongoing victimization of black people comes to a halt. I am the savior. Oh, yeah, right. Because he's looking out for us because he looks like me. He's looking out for himself and looking out for these demonic politicians and elitists that are pulling his strings. Please, looking out for the black community. They ought to be thanking President Trump for increasing funding to HBCUs, because I tell you something, and it wouldn't be a racist attitude, but the attitude that could be taken, and I happen to share this view, is, wait a minute. You think that HBCUs are so important? Then why don't you fund them? We got all these sororities. We got all these wealthy black people. We got all these actors. We got all of these people. You mean to tell me they can't raise the money that is needed to fund these institutions? You mean to tell me they can't set up scholarship programs to support these students so they can say to them, we're doing this. If you're into the racial identity stuff, say, we're doing this. Black people are doing this. We're not asking for the federal government for anything. Oh, no. We can't do that. No. See, because that would be too much like acting like you're free. No. Instead, here's what we get. NASA will fund us. Yep, that's the liberal line. NASA will fund us. I know, forgive me, folks, but look, I've just had it with this stuff. I've just had it. You know, Glenn Lowry, I haven't talked to Glenn Lowry in 25, 30 years, but he and I used to work together at one point. I think he's teaching at Brown University now. But he used to say, it is the height of absurdity to, on the one hand, claim that these people hate you, they're out to get you, they're stopping you, they're in your way, and then on the other hand say, but these people got to help me. Well, which is it? And look, you all know, I am not into segregation at all. I don't believe in it. I don't like it. I think we got to be one nation under God and see each other as individuals. But I'm saying for these people who are into that, well then, let's take it to its logical conclusion. I mean, Hillsdale College continually reminds us, we don't take federal funding because we are committed to promoting a Christian, Judeo-Christian worldview, and we don't want the federal government stepping in, telling us what we can and cannot teach our students. We don't want the federal money. I respect that. Well, you want to be so racially conscious and all that? Why don't you say, you know what? We don't want federal money. We don't need President Trump's money. We don't need, it's not his money, but we don't need money from the federal government. We will take care of these colleges ourselves. I mean, Robert Smith gave, I think, $40 million to Morehouse to pay off students' loans for a whole class of seniors. Why don't they get together and organize? Because he's not the only black billionaire. I mean, I could think of him, Robert Johnson, his former wife. That's just three right off the top of my head. They're all billionaires. There's a bunch of folks around the country could get together and say, look, we're going to create an endowment for these schools. I can't believe they couldn't raise a $100 million endowment. And more. Anyway. But, you know, no. But you see, that's not what they're taught to want, and that is not what they want. They want the dependence. They want the easy way. Like I said, NASA will take care of us. And they want to act like they are the paragons of black liberation. And what they really are the pimps of black dependence. You know what? I'm going to leave Louise Lucas alone. Let me say that I've got to go. You know, folks, I'll tell you something. If God hadn't called me to Virginia, and I didn't have roots sunk deep here, we got a church here, we got a school here. My wife and I have lived in Virginia now for 28 years. Yeah, 28 years in July. Yeah, lived in Virginia 28 years. My family's from Virginia, so I've got historical and ancestral roots here from Orange County, Virginia. But if it weren't for God calling me here primarily and my roots being something, I'd leave. Not because I'm not prepared to fight it out, but because to the extent that I'm fighting, I'd much rather be fighting at least with a home base that supports me. A lot of people that I know have said, I'm gone. I would just say to all of you, what I've learned from this Virginia experience, I left Massachusetts thinking that I was coming to a place where I would have a conservative government that would respect me and my Judeo-Christian values and principles. And here I am right back where I started, with a government that is completely against me and everything I stand for. The lesson is you can run, but you can't hide. You go somewhere else, they'll just follow you. So here I stand. I can do no other. I'm making my stand here. And I am going to, when I meet George Washington in the eternal glory, and I'm confident that I will, that George Washington was a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. When I meet George Washington in eternal glory, I'm going to say to him, General, Mr. President, I did everything I knew to do to preserve the legacy that you gave us in Virginia, and preserve Virginia as a state that would honor God, honor individual liberty, and provide the best opportunity for Virginians to fulfill their God-given gifts and talents and abilities. By the grace of God, I expect we'll succeed at it. Because, as I say all the time, got to stand up, step up, speak up, and refuse to back up. Because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit. Even as bad as it looks in Virginia right now, if we will not quit, we won't be defeated. Because we are on God's side. God bless everybody.